Hey gang, let's get going. Let's jump right into this. Good to see everybody this afternoon. Going to be a wild show. We've got a great lineup. Let's kick it off. Let's go.
I think our leader, Trudeau, I don't think I've ever heard him say a true word.
Oh, hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
Oh, yeah.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Wiggle and squirm as you might, it is really hard to put lipstick on a pig.
When I'm Prime Minister, I will keep my promises.
WTF.
Here.
I know this place is where I am. No other place is better than. No matter where I go, I am proud to be Canadian. I am, you know I am. The worst that works. You know I am. I am Canadian. Come on! I love this country where I am. This land is where I make my stand. The mother fruit is truer than
The one we call Canadian.
Gentlemen, beam me aboard.
Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. Sometimes I feel like my only friend is the city I live in, city of angels. Lonely as I am, together we cry. I drive on the streets 'cause she's my companion. I walk through her hills 'cause she knows who I am. She sees my good deeds and she kisses me windy. But I never worry, now that is a lie. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. Hey, hey, yeah.
I love my man Darren right here.
It's hard to believe that there's nobody out there. It's hard to believe that I'm all alone.
We're not
At
alone.
least I have her love, the city she loves me. Lonely as I am, together we cry. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. Yeah.
Guys, check out Darren's channel. It's so much fun.
Love me now, say yeah, yeah. One time
Under the bridge downtown.
is where I drew some blood.
Under the bridge downtown.
I could not get enough.
Under the bridge downtown.
Forgot about my love.
Under the bridge downtown.
We'll get into the politics.
I gave my life away. Oh no, 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 yeah, yeah. Love me now, say yeah, yeah. Will I stay?
All right, gang, just wanted to give my man Darren a little promo there. That's Dimebag Coins. He's awesome. Check out his channel. It's a lot of fun. He does a lot of really interesting videos about coins mostly, but he also tosses in a big hit once in a while, like that. Who doesn't get up for that? Let's get into the politics, guys. We've got a great show. Should be wild here in the House of Parliament today. Let's see
I wish I
what
could
we've
say
got
that it was
going
a
down.
pleasure to speak today, but it's certainly not the case tonight in the House. The news and the allegations from the RCMP are extremely concerning, and they must be taken seriously as opposed to what has taken place tonight in this House. And this debate is primarily about the Prime Minister, who has the power to take them seriously and has not done so. And any foreign interference from any country that we have been hearing about in this House, outside of this House, with this government for years, needs to be stopped. Our government's first job is to keep citizens safe from foreign threats. The very fact that we are here in this place debating such a serious issue demonstrates that the government has failed. Our government has failed in its obligation to keep this country safe and secure the integrity of our nation. And it's a natural consequence of 9 years of incompetence, of chaos, of an attitude that puts dividing the divisive nature of this Prime Minister over the security of the public. And we've seen it time and time again, and we've seen it particularly in the last year. Canada has become a playground for these activities. And you hear it, and the evidence is there, and multiple people have said it out loud on record, and still it's ignored. And while tonight's debate descends into unserious political distractions, Canadians need to know who knew what and when and why it took so long for the government to act. While we're here to address the allegations about foreign interference in India, this is about much more than that. It's certainly about India, but it's also about Beijing. It's about the tyrannical regime in Iran. It's about all of the times that our Prime Minister made a mockery of our democratic processes and, frankly, our values. Every Canadian should be concerned because it is putting our lives and our freedoms and our country at risk. The allegations that have been made are serious, incredibly so, and they should be investigated and pursued to the fullest extent of the law. As a country, we must stand resolutely against the attempts of other actors to interfere with the rights of our citizens and our democratic process. The idea that a foreign state would even attempt anything near these allegations certainly merits more than the anemic response provided by the Liberals at every turn over the last 9 years. Furthermore, any suggestion that individuals collaborated or colluded with these attempts or in any other attempts should be fully investigated and, again, pursued to the fullest extent of the law. That's really not up for debate. But here's what these suggestions should not be, Mr. Speaker. They should not be used as a means to score cheap political points that nobody is buying anymore, to divide our nation into smaller and smaller groups, into smaller and smaller factions. What this Prime Minister did when he appeared in front of Justice Hogue last week is exactly that. He went there with one mission: to level unfounded and unproven and unfair allegations against members of this party and members of his own party, casting aspersions. Now, you have to realize, Mr. Speaker, if you can't name the parliamentarians, then it should be equally it should be equally wrong to say anything about them or say what you know or their party affiliations. And he frankly cast aspersions on the entire House and then walked away from the podium. It's behavior like that that is unbecoming of a Prime Minister and that has made a mockery of this whole process. And if you look outside of this House and you listen to what people are saying, it has made a mockery of this entire issue. And that's unfortunate, because it is a serious one. He should be less focused on trying to make this a mockery, and he should be more focused on the serious implications that this has for our national interest. He is more than just the Liberal Party leader. I don't know how long he's going to be the Liberal Party leader. He is the Prime Minister, and he should remember that. But I suspect it might be difficult when his caucus is revolting against him, and he needs to focus at least a little bit of attention elsewhere for the first time. You know, my parents always told me growing up that if you're going to make a serious allegation about, Conservatives being part of something, you would need some evidence to back it up. And that's what we're asking for. We're asking for him to release the names. If you have evidence about what the Prime Minister has said, has made claims about other MPs in this House, then he should release the names. And we all know that he can do that. We're asking the Prime Minister to release the names of the individuals that have been accused so that we can deal with the actual problem, so that we can move forward constructively. That's what Canadians want to know on this and on the matter at hand. But he won't, because this is another crass and pathetic attempt by the Prime Minister to divide and to distract and to deflect his mistakes. Maybe they're not mistakes. Maybe it is an intentional hiding of the facts that he has known for a very, very long time, rather than trying to fix the issue at hand or looking serious while doing it. He's trying to cover up the fact that his caucus is in open revolt of his leadership, and this is a convenient distraction. He's trying to cover up for the fact that he's destroyed our economy through higher taxes, higher inflation, higher government spending. He's trying to cover up for his own failures in protecting this country and safeguarding the rights of Canadians. And while this is behavior that is unbecoming, we really shouldn't be surprised from this Prime Minister. It's probably even benefited him electorally in his prospects. Otherwise, why hide anything at all? The opposition parties have acquiesced to his tactics of swearing them into secrecy so they can't do their jobs and they can't effectively prove their case. And that's been proven tonight over and over again, where any opposition leader who bothered to speak in this House to this motion couldn't hold the government to account. And if they really knew that there was something in the documents, then rather than sitting back, they would have asked the government what they have done about this, and it is exactly nothing. The Liberals have muzzled their opposition so they can continue to turn a blind eye at the obvious wrongdoing that has and they've brought the cabal along with them to acquiesce to all of this. They used to be members of an actual opposition that could hold the government to account, and now they've been silenced. And you didn't have to look very far to see that they have been completely ineffective at prosecuting this government's failure on foreign interference. After all, it's this Prime Minister who turned a blind eye when foreign interference was coming from Beijing, when the communist dictatorship was spreading misinformation and even buying Liberal Party memberships to influence nomination races. To that I say, release the names. This is the Prime Minister who took 6 years to declare the IRGC a terrorist organization that we all know that they are. And they still use Canada as their safe haven to fundraise, to recruit, to intimidate our own citizens, and to possibly play a role in our electoral process. To that I say, release the names. And it is this Prime Minister who employed the Emergencies Act, trampling the rights and freedoms of Canadians for purely political opinions when they didn't agree with them. And to that, Canadians say, release the names. This is the Prime Minister's whose ministers mysteriously sat on a CSIS surveillance warrant on a Liberal power broker for 54 days. To that I say, release the names. And this is a Prime Minister who appointed Liberal insiders and personal friends to investigate the misdeeds of his own government. These are the things that happened under the Prime Minister's watch, and it's his weak leadership that is the reason why it is happening more and more. Our adversaries know that Canada is an easy target and that they can get away with almost anything here. The Prime Minister is actively in the process of proving them right at every single turn. We have a common sense ask of the Prime Minister. It is release the names. Canadians want to know. Release the names of the individuals who have collaborated with Beijing against Canada. Release the names of the individuals who have collaborated with India against Canada. Release the names of all of the people who knowingly and wittingly.
Hey guys, don't mean to interrupt our great Melissa Lanceman right here, but smash the like. Consider a subscription. We have a blast here in the chat room. Come check out the chat. If you're just a viewer, I know there's people watching that don't participate in the chat. They should. They'll like it. Let's get back to Melissa.
Work with hostile foreign states for personal gain. It is an easy thing to do. The Prime Minister did it once in the House of Commons already. He can do it again, but he won't. Prime Minister doesn't seem to want to do that. He seems to want to continue this sideshow, the political theater, as long as possible, because it allows him not to talk about the issues that he doesn't want to talk about. Because he's lost all semblance of control. He looks unhinged. That's right. Rather than he continues to insist on some nonsensical argument about secret briefings when he can walk over right here, 2 sword lengths apart, 10 steps at best. He's actually pretty tall, so it's probably less than 10 steps, and he can tell the leader of the opposition exactly what the problem is, and he won't do that. You know why? It's because he's using this for political gain. If the member from Carleton takes the briefing by admission of the Prime Minister's own Chief of Staff, he will be unable to speak about the results or act upon them, just like the Prime Minister has failed to do. He can't do that in any way. His own office says that. In fact, the former leader of the NDP says that too. He deserves the information and not the handcuffing. The CSIS Act actually allows for this. The CSIS Act allows for anybody to offer any information on anybody about the risks of foreign interference without forcing them into sworn secrecy. And I will repeat that. The CSIS Act actually allows the Prime Minister to walk over here and tell the Leader of the Opposition everything he needs to know. But you know why he's not doing that? Because he doesn't want to deal with the problem in his own caucus. But the government insists again and again on secrecy without ever telling us why. I'll tell you why, Mr. Speaker. It's because he's hiding things from Canadians once again. It's because he is scared. It's because he has benefited from it politically. So we'll have to ask, what is the Prime Minister hiding? What is he so scared of? We know that there are individuals from all parties who are rumored to be implicated. But Conservatives aren't scared of anything. If the government acted, Canadians wouldn't be asking questions about why they're keeping secrets. And I think everybody would be better off. Every single member of Parliament that has now had the Prime Minister cast aspersions on them. That's irresponsible behavior from a Prime Minister. The sooner the names are released, the sooner we can take action to ensure that our institutions and our political parties are free from interference. But otherwise, it's going to get way worse from a variety of actors, from a variety of places. Because like I said, they know that Canada is an easy place to do their dirty deeds. Tonight's debate is another example of how the Prime Minister has failed on foreign interference. The Prime Minister at the Hague Commission admitted that our intelligence agencies have been gathering information for years that India has been committing foreign interference on Canadian soil. Yet, it is clear that he did nothing to act on it, even after a real and present danger to Canadians was known, and an act was carried out. And people have lost lives. Even when provided with the opportunity to protect Canadians against extortion, one of the violent actions that the RCMP has accused Indian officials of engaging in, they voted against the bill. It was a bill by my co-deputy leader from Edmonton, Bill C-381, the Protection Against Extortion Act, and every single one of them voted against it. I mean, some didn't show up, but the rest voted against it. The United States managed to thwart an assassination attempt on American soil, and Canada was unable to do so. And when the issue of Chinese interference came up, the Prime Minister tried to claim that it didn't exist. And then that had been exposed as an outright falsehood. His government stalled for years on the creation of a foreign influence registry. And it was only ever introduced as a result of Conservative pressure.
That's right.
His government also did everything it could to avoid a public inquiry into foreign.
Okay, gang. I love Melissa Lantzman. I'm looking at my timeline, trying to figure out how we're going to time all this stuff out. We're going to something different. This is a very fun, eye-opening video. Andrew Scheer, check out his channel as well. Definitely worth a look.
If government officials funneled $400 million of your tax money into their own pockets, you would have heard about it by now, right?
He has $1 billion fund whose own bureaucrats say reminds them of the sponsorship scandal, whose executives give money to their own companies.
But you probably haven't, because when Liberals are in power, the Parliamentary Press Gallery doesn't like to highlight Liberal corruption.
There's been explosive testimony by a whistleblower on this Prime Minister's $1 billion green slush fund that's seen $150 million misappropriated and gone to Liberal insiders.
Liberal appointees to a board that got to make decisions as to which companies got grants worth millions of dollars of taxpayers' money gave those grants to their own companies. A scandal like this should be the lead item on the news day after day. There should be banner headlines on front pages every time there's a new development. There should be shadowy figures in parking garages smoking cigarettes, handing out documents to hardworking investigative reporters.
I can't tell you who I am, but I worked on the campaign.
Hey, Mr. Smithers!
But none of that is really happening. Instead, the Parliamentary Press Gallery is focusing on all different kinds of issues where they can try to distract Canadians from the real essence of the scandal.
It's the headline everywhere. Prince Charles, before he was king, shrieking at seeing shrink wrap, or plastic wrap as we call it, for the first time.
So instead of letting the mainstream media confuse and distract, let's get right into the essence of this scandal.
The findings that were the findings used to suspend SDTC were known to the federal government all the way back in May of 2023.
There's a fund called Sustainable Development Technology Canada, and it's supposed to give grants to companies who have legitimate, innovative ideas to improve Canada's environmental record. Now, SDTC is a huge organization funded by the government to the tune of $1 billion in tax money. The Liberals appointed their friends to the board. That board gets to decide who gets the cash. And what did they do when those Liberal insiders sat around the table? They started handing out money to their own companies. $400 million of your money went not to improve environmental outcomes, but to line the pockets of Liberal insiders. $334 million over 186 cases to projects in which board members held a conflict of interest. That means they benefited from the decision, and they were the ones who made the decision. $58 million to 10 projects that weren't even eligible and couldn't even demonstrate any environmental benefit at all or any development of green technology. The ethics commissioner found that the chair of this board, this Liberal appointee, broke the law when she funneled money into her own company. After 9 years, the Trudeau Liberals aren't even trying to be creative in their corruption. There was a giant pile of money, which is why we call it a slush fund. And the Liberals on the board that got to make the decision as to who got the money gave it to themselves. This is so blatant, it got caught the first time the fund was audited. If this storyline were part of a movie or a television series, it probably would get rejected due to lazy and bad writing. How do we know this? It's because a brave whistleblower testified at committee and blew the lid wide open on this gross corruption scandal.
Guys, do me a favor, check out Andrew Scheer's channel. I don't mean to be piggybacking off of Andrew Scheer here, but his videos are so informative. They're great. Check out his channel.
Here's what the whistleblower said. It should never have taken 2 years for the issues to reach this point, and what should have been a straightforward process turned into a bureaucratic nightmare that allowed SDTC to continue wasting millions of dollars and abusing countless employees over the last year. Now, if you were in government, you might think, well, hey, let's hold the lawbreakers to account. Let's let the truth come out, and let's let the RCMP charge those who knowingly stuff their own pockets with your cash. But instead, what are the Liberals doing? They're fighting this tooth and nail. They're actually paralyzing Parliament to keep these documents hidden. Here's what that same whistleblower said about criminal activity.
I think the Auditor General's investigation was more of a cursory review. I don't think the goal and mandate of the Auditor General's office to actually look into criminality, so I'm not surprised by the fact that they haven't found anything criminal, because they're not looking at intent. So if their investigation was focused on intent, of course they would find the criminality.
And do you believe that the RCMP doesn't have authority to investigate in this matter?
No, I definitely believe they have authority.
That's why we need the RCMP to have all the documents so they can see who knew what and when, who was directing people to make those decisions, and who got rich off of your tax money. So the Conservatives passed a parliamentary order to produce all the documents, have the government send all the evidence to the RCMP, and the Liberals refused. So the Speaker ruled that Parliament can't debate anything else until it deals with this corruption scandal. If they're willing to pay the political price for seizing up Parliament, grinding it to a halt, the only conclusion possible is that there must be something so bad in these documents, evidence so damning, that they are willing to pay the political price for grinding Parliament to a halt and cancelling part of the parliamentary session. But Conservatives aren't going to let them run away from the scandal. We're going to continue to fight on behalf of you, the taxpayers. We want the lawbreakers held to account, and we want to get your money back. Once again, thanks for watching.
All right, gang. So we're going to drop over to question period. Question period doesn't start for another 15 minutes. But they do these statements and there is debate happening on the floor. So we're going to get into that. Let's go. How do we do this? Come on, Ehren. Come on! Let's get some politics going. Here it is. House Comments floor. Thank you all for hanging out, watching our daily soap. What's going to happen today? Who knows?
Scandal in 2021
We've got Rude
saw the
right
Liberal
here.
government come under fire for refusing to provide Parliament with unredacted documents about the firing of 2 scientists from a high-security virology lab. This case remains shrouded in secrecy, with concerns about potential security breaches and the shipment of dangerous viruses to a communist Chinese military research facility. The government's refusal to comply with House orders has raised serious questions about transparency and national security. More recently, in 2023, we learned about the McKinsey contract scandal, where the federal government awarded $209 million in contracts to McKinsey and Company without proper, adequate oversight. Many of these contracts were awarded on a non-competitive basis, raising concerns about the government's procurement practices and the potential conflicts of interest. So once again...
Sorry guys, don't mean to speak over the politicians. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Consider a membership. We're doing great things on this channel. We're showing all of what is happening in context. I don't try to manipulate your thoughts. I show you what is going on. That's how I feel that it's done here. And in context, man, we're going to figure this out.
Who did no actual IT work, but had strong connections to officials in the Liberal upper ranks. Now, the Auditor General has confirmed that they will be conducting a performance audit of all contracts and payments related to GC Strategies and other companies incorporated by the founders. This will impact all departments, agencies, and Crown corporations who had dealings with the group.
I hate to interrupt the honourable member, but it has we've come to the allocated time before we move on to oral questions. The honourable member will have about 9 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock when she resumes her discussion on this question of privilege. Comme il est 14 heures, c'est le temps pour...
It being 2 o'clock, it's time for statements by members.
The honourable member from Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, gratitude and pride were the 2 themes that permeated at the opening of LiUNA Local 183's headquarters in the city of Vaughan. Pride in the official opening of the new state-of-the-art headquarters representing 70,000 members strong and their families.
This gimp, Francesco Sabara, he's a gimp. He's a little flake. He's a piece of shit. And he acts like he's dignified and a good person. Frank, if I ever see you, I'm spitting on your foot.
Occasion. And to LiUNA International Vice President and Canadian Director Joseph Mancinelli, thank you for your ongoing leadership. I also join the strong LiUNA family in honoring 2 giants who helped pave the foundation of LiUNA and the industry, Enrico Mancinelli and Julio Oliveira Sr. Mr. Speaker, my gratitude and best wishes always to the LiUNA members that keep Canada moving forward. Feel the power.
Feel the power.
The honourable member from Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Speaker, each year 2 students from each of the 7 secondary schools in my riding are selected to participate in a program called the Capital Experience. It was started 19 years ago by my predecessor, Barry DeVolen. During the past 3 days in Ottawa, they have learned about the various career opportunities that await them. I would like to introduce this year's participants: Calvin Smith and Evan Lane from IE Weldon, Sophia Ensign Telford from Fenland Falls, Sadie Evans-Faulkner and Trevin Bain-Gross from Halliburton Highlands, Sarah Wojciesko and Daniel Patterson from St. Thomas Aquinas, Ella Wilson and Becca Lang from LCVI, Bronte Weber and Tyler Pettit from Brock, Allison Carroll and Braden Boughton from Crestwood. I'd like to thank the sponsors, the Lions Clubs, Rotary Clubs, and local legions, as well as the guest speakers for their ongoing support of this program. It's my hope that these students will be inspired as they consider their future. To that end, I'd like to invite my colleagues to welcome these young leaders to Ottawa.
Indeed, welcome. The honourable member from St. John Rothsay.
Mr. Speaker, the winds of change have blown through New Brunswick. Last night, New Brunswickers voted for change and helped make history too. New Brunswick has elected its first female premier. Susan Holt led her Liberal team to a solid majority government, bringing an end to 6 years of Conservative rule. Even Premier Blaine Higgs lost his seat in the red tide of change. The final tally is 31 seats for the Liberals, 16 seats for the Conservatives, and 2 for the Greens, including Green Party leader David Coon. It's a new day for my home province, and under the leadership of Premier-designate Holt, I am confident New Brunswickers have put their faith behind someone who will listen, lead with authenticity, and who will take their best interest at the center of every decision they make. Congratulations and go Team Holt!
The honourable member for Laurentide-Labelle. Today, I'd like to turn the spotlight onto Sylvie Bolduc, General Manager of SADC des Laurentides for the last 15 years. She's leaving now for a well-deserved retirement, and I'd like to highlight the remarkable contribution that she's made to the development of many large-scale economic projects in the Laurentians, projects that have had major direct benefits for the region. She set up Synergie Économique Laurentide, which is dedicated to the circular economy and which is now a leader in that sector. Sylvie Bolduc has made major contributions, has made a big difference in the Laurentian economic landscape, and she brought a feminine face to regional economic development. She was a pioneer who has cleared the way for everyone who has an entrepreneurial spirit. On behalf of all those who've worked with her, economic and community partners, Sylvie, I thank you very much for your leadership, which has brought people together, and I wish you a long and happy retirement.
The honourable member from Yukon.
Mr. Speaker, our government will always protect universal, publicly funded health care, as well as sexual and reproductive rights. These two principles underlie the Pharmacare Act, which received royal assent on October 10th. This landmark legislation will establish a framework for a national, publicly funded system for universal drug coverage, and very soon will ensure every Canadian from coast to coast to coast has access to essential diabetes medications and contraception. Pharmacare means that 9 million women and gender-diverse Canadians will no longer need to bear the financial burden of accessing contraception. Additionally, more than 3.5 million Canadians living with diabetes will gain access to the medications and supplies to manage their disease. We know that cost is one of the biggest barriers for Canadians to get access to the medication that they need. As parliamentarians, our role is to protect and better the lives of the Canadians that we serve. The passing of this legislation will be a lasting benefit to Canadians. Thank you.
The honourable member from Kamloops, Thompson Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. Mr. Speaker, are you interested in a heat pump? Because these Liberals know a guy. He goes by the name of Carbon Tax Carney, Conflict of Interest Carney, Heat Pump Hustle Carney, and future leader of the Liberal Party Carney. He has as many nicknames as he does conflicts of interest. For instance, he's been caught lobbying the governments to scale back rules on heat pump qualifications, helping his firm earn a few quick bucks. With sleight of hand, he not only pitches the idea, but he installs the product too. He's been caught trying to enrich himself with Canadian tax dollars. Brookfield is the name, $10 billion is the gain. It's clear that Carbon Tax Carney has too many conflicts of interest to be advising the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister needs to fire him now or bring him under the umbrella of ethics rules.
That's right. Hey. Great job, great statement. The honourable member from Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, the passage of our pharmacare legislation is a huge step forward for universal health care in Canada. Millions of Canadians and Albertans living with diabetes will be able to follow their treatment plans without having to make tough financial decisions. I am so proud that we will be able to help over 3.5 million Canadians living with diabetes so that they can focus on their health and wellness instead of the amount of money it will cost to maintain their treatment plan. Caring for our neighbors is what Canadians do. Every Conservative member in this House voted against pharmacare because they don't want to work on solutions that will put the health of Canadians first. On this side of the House, we will always stand up for Canadians and their right to universal health care. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, women and gender-diverse Canadians deserve to know their government has their back. With the recent passage of the Pharmacare Act on October 10th, we will soon see 9 million women and gender-diverse Canadians have access to free contraceptives if they need it. This will change millions of lives for generations to come, and we will look back at this critical moment for women and gender-diverse people across Canada and be proud that our government stepped up to make the Pharmacare Act a reality. Family values means valuing and supporting families. Free contraceptives through the Pharmacare Act is the latest policy, joining universal childcare, the Canada Child Benefit, and many others in supporting families. Our Liberal government doesn't just talk about family values, we invest in them through progressive policies such as free contraceptives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Battle River, Crowfoot.
Here, here. After 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and it turns out CBC bonuses are also up. Yesterday in Heritage Committee, Catherine Tate, the Liberals' handpicked CEO of CBC, refused to rule out accepting a fat taxpayer-funded bonus and severance as her term comes to an end. With its viewership down, ad revenue falling, and less trust all the time, CBC responds by giving $18 million in bonuses, including an average of $73,000 for each of the broadcaster's 43 executives, and millions more for its hundreds of managers. Then they pay for a $1,000 a night hotel room in Paris so that Ms. Tate can attend luxury balls at the Louvre. All while they ask for more money, fire hundreds of employees, cut services, and get woke. Even the Liberals admit CBC is making its own case for it to be defunded, something that Ms. Tate says is gaining momentum. Mr. Speaker, the solution is simple. Reject the bonuses, fire the Prime Minister, and defund the CBC. That's common sense.
The honourable member for Longueuil-Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, on October 10th, the Pharmacare Act received royal assent. Among other things, this act will give Canadians universal single-payer coverage for a range of contraceptives. 9 million women and gender-diverse persons will be able to benefit from this measure. In recent months, many constituents in my riding of Longueuil-Charlemagne had told me the extent to which this bill was important for them. Canadians want to be able to choose if, when, and how they start a family, and our government has listened to them. Unfortunately, the Conservatives voted against this act at every step.
The cost of contraceptives is one of the many barriers to gender equity in Canada. Our government will always stand up for a woman's right to choose and make medical decisions about her own body, delivers on that commitment. Bravo. Thank you. Great job. Great job.
The honourable member from Durham.
Canadians are sick and tired of the Prime Minister's
that's not on me.
misleading statements about gun violence. Yesterday, the Prime Minister had the audacity to pat himself on the back over his appalling handgun crime record. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm a Canadian who lost a friend 3 years ago to gun violence, and I take the Prime Minister's deception personally. Handgun crime is up 116% since the Liberals came into power. Families are grieving, and the Toronto Police Association is calling out the Prime Minister for being out of touch and offensive to victims. Canadians simply deserve better. Canadians deserve a Prime Minister and a government that will stop the crime, not this Prime Minister who is focused on celebrating his own failures.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
After 9 years, this NDP Liberal government is not worth the cost or the corruption. Today, the Auditor General confirms a full investigation into the Liberal government deals awarded to Arrive scam contractor GC Strategies. This shady two-person firm that did absolutely no IT work charged taxpayers $2,600 per hour for over $100 million in government contracts. Sole source deals that froze out hard-working Canadian companies. In the Arrive scam scandal alone, the Liberals' preferred contractor, GC Strategies, pocketed $20 million of a $60 million price tag for an app that should have cost a fraction of the price. Why did the Prime Minister give these Arrive scam middlemen $100 million since he took office? And when will the Prime Minister stop robbing Canadians of their hard-earned money and doling it out to well-connected Liberal elites? After 9 years of these NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up for these corrupt Liberals and their well-connected friends. Common sense Conservatives are going to end the corruption and bring home a carbon tax election.
The honourable member from Egmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For Islanders who live in my riding, this government's commitment to lowering costs has resulted in real benefits. Whether it was keeping the retirement age at 65 or making the Canada Child Benefit tax-free, the decisions we have taken have been a real help to thousands in my riding. The new Pharmacare Act is another important chapter in that journey towards a fair society. On Prince Edward Island, we are already seeing the results. Millions have been saved, and more importantly, Islanders know that they have affordable access they need to keep them healthy. And this is what I am hearing from constituents in my riding. Keep going, and more importantly, make sure you protect the gains we have made. Our lives are better than they were under the former government, and we need you to protect the gains we have all made together. Hear, hear.
Order. The honourable member from Hamilton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize October as Dyslexia Awareness Month in line with Dyslexia Canada's campaign, Mark It Red for Dyslexia. This year's theme is Breaking the Silence, shedding light on the 10 to 20% of Canadians living with this often overlooked learning disability. Dyslexia affects reading, writing, and spelling, but with early identification and the right support, its impact can be reduced and individuals can thrive. As a nation, we must commit to raising awareness and supporting those with dyslexia by lighting up our buildings and monuments in red this October. Together, let's break the silence and advocate for the needs of children and adults with dyslexia across Canada.
The honourable member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, I would like to mark the 250th anniversary of a magnificent municipality in my riding, Saint-Jacques. This great little town is considered the cradle of Nouvelle Acadie, or New Acadia. Founded in 1774, Saint-Jacques was a refuge for many Acadian families who found there a place of welcome and peace after having been shamefully deported by the British Crown during the Acadian deportation, the Grand Dérangement. Nestled in the heart of the Lanaudière region, this municipality attracts gourmets and amateurs of history. With its impressive built heritage, it's also home to such gems as the Parc des Cultures, where you can admire an Acadian commemorative monument and a number of sculptures, each more impressive than the next, including the bust of one of my mentors, a great Jacobin and a former Premier of Quebec, Bernard Landry. Because yes, Mr. Speaker, I have to let you in on a little secret. The greatest asset of Saint-Jacques is the people who live there. People from Saint-Jacques, happy 250th.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
10 years ago, our country witnessed a horrific attack on the heart of our democracy. Corporal Nathan Cirillo, standing guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier, was senselessly murdered.
And this was just 2 days after the murder of Warrant Officer Patrice Vincent at the Saint-Jean military base.
Both were targeted for wearing the uniform of our country, defending our freedom. But in the midst of this darkness, we also saw examples of extraordinary courage. Civilians rushed to aid Corporal Cirillo, showing the compassion and resilience that define our nation. And inside Parliament, heroes emerged as well. Parliamentary Security Constable Samron San saw the attacker armed with a rifle and acted without hesitation. In a struggle that cost him a bullet to the leg, Constable San showed unparalleled courage when he attempted to disarm the terrorist. His brave actions bought crucial moments for the rest of the security personnel to react and ultimately stop the terrorist before he could take any more innocent lives.
Today, we honor the memory of those who were taken from us, and we stand in awe of the courage of those who acted with such selflessness.
This alone is not enough. Unfortunately, there are people today in Canada glorifying terrorist attacks and celebrating those who commit these evil acts. That is why on days like today, we should not only honor the lives lost and celebrate the heroes of the day, but clearly and unequivocally condemn those who advocate violence to achieve political goals. Let us honor the memory of Corporal Cirillo and Patrice Vincent and grieve with their families. May perpetual light shine upon them.
The Honourable Member from Waterloo.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to mark the loss of Corporal Nathan Cirillo, who was gunned down 10 years ago today, while standing guard on sentry duty at the Canadian National War Memorial. On October 22, 2014, we lost a son, brother, father, friend, and a national hero. When we lost Nathan, a 24-year-old reservist from Hamilton, we all mourned as one Canadian family. My prayers continue to include his family and his loved ones, as well.
Quick question for you. Do you think Badish Chagger here is 25 or do you think she's 65? I have no idea. Is she old or young? It's hard to tell.
As the wonderful people who came to Nathan's aid. To all men and women in uniform, please know that you are valued and we appreciate your work. To our Parliamentary Protective Service members who continue to serve and those who have since left, please know that your efforts will forever be remembered. Today is a devastating memory in our history, and I hope all members in this place will continue to work together to ensure that the PPS is given the resources and the regard they deserve. As we honor the courageous Canadians in uniform who defend our values and freedom at home and around the world, we are reminded of the responsibility we all share to denounce hatred and to promote inclusion in our communities and in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions orales, oral questions.
Here we go. Here we go.
Mr. Speaker.
Don't open in French, man. Stop doing that.
40 Liberal members.
It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt
noting
you.
what Canadians know already. This Prime Minister is simply not worth the cost, the crime, or the corrupt.
I'll get this out of the way. Like, French is not a dominating language in our country. It's such bullshit that Poilievre does this. This is one of my big concerns about Poilievre. He's pandering to the French. Who gives a shit about the French? If that makes you want to leave this, leave. French is the second language in Canada. Quebec is the only French province. They have a few French people in Quebec, in New Brunswick, but oh my God, it pisses me off that he opens in French all the time. It's pandering.
But those MPs are telling us that they need the Prime Minister's permission to speak at tomorrow's caucus meeting. So he will be able to muzzle them with regards to the doubling of our debt, of inflation, of housing costs and corruption. Will he allow freedom of expression for his MPs so that they can express themselves?
So, the chair could not detect that this question has to do with the administration of government.
What? What is Fergus up to here? Some kind of coward trick?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I think Mr. Speaker, we see, on voit très...
We see very clearly once again that the leader of the opposition should concern himself with his priorities. He doesn't care about Canadians' priorities. We're delivering for Canadians, for dental care, for pharmacare, for $10 a day daycare. The Conservative leader offers only cuts and austerity and political play. What we are going to do on this side of the House is work for Canadians and their well-being. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, it's the Prime Minister who is distracting himself with political games because his own MPs, about 40 of them, have noted that he is simply not worth the cost, the crime, or the corruption. They have lost their trust in this Prime Minister. It's strange that the Bloc Québécois keeps voting for confidence in the government when the own government's members seem to no longer want to do so. Members should be able to express themselves freely. Will the Prime Minister stop muzzling them so that they can express themselves to say finally that the Prime Minister is not worth the cost or the crime? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, we see the point up to which the Leader of the Opposition is only working for his own partisan politics. He's not working for the well-being of Canadians. We are here to invest in pharmacare, for example, that will deliver insulin for free to those who need it, that will deliver contraception.
I'm sick of this French guys. Like, we live in a country where, there's a lot of French people in Quebec speak French in Quebec. But, again, I understand French. I can speak a bit, but it's embarrassing what these guys are doing.
Liberal MPs that believe that this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost, crime, and corruption. But there's this strange rule in the Liberal caucus that you need to have permission from the Prime Minister to speak at the microphone. So a Liberal MP wanted to get up and say quadrupling the carbon tax is a bad idea or doubling housing costs is making people homeless. They can't do it. Will the Prime Minister lift the gag so his Liberal MPs can say to his face that he's not worth the crime, the cost, and the corruption?
Once again in English, none of these questions have to deal with the administration of government, but I see the order. I see that the Prime Minister is rising to his feet. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it seems that the Conservative leader is confusing rules that apply within his Conservative caucus to rules that we have in the Liberal Party. But the reality is, Mr. Speaker, we see at which point the Conservative leader is simply focused on playing politics and gaining power. That's why he wants to talk about things that are not having to do with delivering for Canadians. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that close to 1 million Canadians will be receiving dental care because of our Canadian dental program that he says doesn't even exist and that he's voted against every step of the way.
May I ask the honourable member from Battle River Crowfoot to please not take the microphone when the speaker is up on his feet or when other speakers who have been recognized by the speaker is taking the floor. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to have to bring up this terrible rule. It's just that Liberal backbench MPs are coming and talking to all of us to say that they're not allowed to speak to him. And they're wondering if I could perhaps pose some questions on their behalf. Mr. Speaker, I guess they can't get anywhere with the current Prime Minister, so they'd rather talk to the future common sense Conservative. Instead of silencing his own MPs, will he let them get up to the mic tomorrow to tell him that he's not worth the cost, crime, and corruption?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the reality is he can't administer the government because he's too busy fighting for his job after 9 years. Even if his MPs know it. He broke immigration, he doubled the debt, doubled housing costs, doubled crime, doubled the cost of living in a home. He wants to quadruple the carbon tax that's already forced 2 million people to a food bank, 1 in 4 kids to hunger, 25% of Canadians to poverty. Canadian food prices up 36% faster than in the States. StatsCan says we have the biggest gap between rich and poor in our recorded history. His MPs know that he's broke the country. Will they call a carbon tax election so we can fix it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition, like all of us in this House, know that Canadians are facing challenging times. His solution, however, is to offer them cuts, is to offer them no programs that they can rely on, and to vote against things like dental care and pharmacare and investments in a green economy that is going to create jobs and careers long into the future. He wants to harm Canadians where we're focusing on delivering for them. He wants cuts to programs and services while we're busy investing in Canadians and their futures. That's the choice Canadians get to make.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, time is moving on. 4 million retirees in Canada.
Hey gang, so we're going to take a stab at saying hello to everybody. Again, I'm going to miss some people. I have a list here that populates if your name is hidden or you have privacy settings. I'm not going to see your name, but there are so many awesome people here. Annie G, Autumn Kristen, Backyard Garden, Brenda Walworth, Brent Parsons, Cicely Bardole, Chris Meany, Christine Noseworthy, What's Up Girl, Common Sense, Cryptomaria, Digger D, Donna Logan, Gus Pappas, Harry Taint, James Vahey, Jeff Vanderkoy, Jordan, Keister, good to see you, Lois Hurst, welcome, Lorraine Johnson, Megan P., Mark Maloney, Mike Duncan, Monique Carriere, No Show, what's up? Pat Doucette, what's going on? My girl Patty Zadow, what's shaking? Brother Rory Kennedy, what's going on? Rayman, Sasquatch, Salty Berry Apothecary, what's up? Serena Sutterman, how you doing? Silver Fox, good to see you. My girl, Sheila Hall, I'm glad to hear you're feeling better. Steve Bloy, brother, what's up, funny man? Storm, what's going on? Stinger 007, Sylvain Robert, True Blue, brother, what's going on? Vamp Fashions and Wolfhound and Yentas Bagels. Good to see you. Anyways, back to the show. This is just some French we're interrupting. I'm sick of the French and the catering that all of the parties do. Do you know what percentage of Canadians speak French as their only language? Look it up.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I've said many times, Mr. Speaker, I completely agree with the desire to be here for seniors who need our help, and that is the reason for which our government has enacted a number of measures in the past years to invest in seniors, to be here for our seniors. And we are open to working with people in this House in order to deliver even more for seniors. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, poverty and insecurity are affecting more and more people. According to one study, every month 40% of Quebecers are a mere $200 away from bankruptcy. $200, Mr. Speaker. The situation is so serious that the expression tightening our belts is becoming too real. 20% of people are eating less just to save a bit of money. It makes no sense. It's a result of the Liberals' weakness in forcing CEOs of big grocery stores to do the right thing. When will the Liberals stand up, grow a spine, and force these companies to control the prices of essential foods? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the NDP knows full well that we have enacted measures to improve competitivity between groceries. We have delivered direct aid to families who needed it, and we're also delivering a program for food in schools that is saving hundreds for families from coast to coast to coast. We'll continue to be here to support Canadians. We'll continue to be here to invest in programs that will help Canadians, whilst the Conservatives are just threatening austerity and cuts.
The honourable member from Nunavut.
Last week, First Nations leaders respected the First Nations Caring Society by voting to guarantee all First Nations children will be protected from Canada's discrimination in child and family services. The Liberals had offered a weak funding plan with an expiry date. This discrimination must stop now and forever. Will the Prime Minister finally respect the Human Rights Tribunal, stop discriminating against First Nations children, and offer First Nations an agreement that upholds their rights?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, reconciliation means walking as true partners to Indigenous peoples, and we, of course, will continue to be there to invest in supports for Indigenous peoples. It means we will continue to work with them in the ways that make sense. I will highlight that the Chiefs of Ontario and the Anishinaabe Aski Nation are continuing to look for ways to move forward with the government to support kids who've been affected in care. We will continue to be there to work in partnership with Indigenous leadership and communities to deliver the supports so deeply needed by so many young people.
That's great. Great.
The honourable member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
After 9 years of this Liberal NDP government, taxes up, costs up, crimes up, time's up. The parliamentary budgeting officer confirmed what Canadians already know. This incompetent finance minister can't do math. She's going to blow through her own deficit this year by $7 billion. That's higher taxes and lower standards of living. 1 in 4 Canadians are already skipping meals, and this Liberal-made misery is only going to get worse. Why not call a carbon tax election now so Conservatives can fix the budget?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I am so glad to hear the Conservatives talk about the PBO, because just a few weeks ago, the PBO did a report on the sustainability of the federal finances. And I'm going to quote what the PBO said, quote, "Current fiscal policy at the federal level is sustainable over the long term. In fact, according to the PBO, the federal government could even, quote, permanently increase spending by 1.5% of GDP. The only fiscal threat to Canada is Conservatives, who would cut health care, child care, national school fees."
The honourable member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
That PhD in wackonomics has no clue. This incompetent finance minister, not knowing how to do math,
not to delay it any longer, we'll keep it running. But, like, why is he stalling now? What did Holland say in that piece that Greg Fergus needs to do this? Greg Fergus, piece of shit.
Try to encourage as much freedom as possible in terms of the way people express themselves here. I'm going to ask honourable members. I'm going to ask honourable members to, as much as possible, refrain from using language which is directed at a particular member and is considered insulting to those members. So I'm going to encourage all members, and I've spoken about this in a previous ruling. I'm going to ask the honourable member from Calgary Forest Lawn to start his question again, but to rephrase his question so that he doesn't use that kind of language.
that sounds like liberal wackonomics. And this incompetent finance minister, not knowing how to do math, ensured 50% of Canadians can't afford basic necessities like food. She'll give cushy contracts to rich liberal insiders while telling the 2 million Canadians she sent into a food bank they can solve their liberal-made misery by cancelling their Disney+. She knows higher deficits lead to higher taxes and lower standards of living. She just doesn't care. Why not call a carbon tax election now so Canadians can fire these economic arsonists?
so hard. Big fan of Josh Rock.
I'm going to come back to members on this matter, but I'm going to encourage all members.
Nobody pays to see the referee.
I'm going to encourage all members to please keep their counsel when they're not recognized by the chair. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for your remonstrations, but I have to tell you, speaking for myself, puerile playground insults from the maple syrup mega don't bother me
She is a sack of blood and guts and shit. Chrystia Freeland right here. What is she bringing up MAGA for? It's a distraction. She's trying to fool my mom is what's going on. That's who these assholes are trying to fool. People that don't watch, that don't know, that watch CBC. And look at that smug. Look, oh my God, Chrystia Freeland, you're such a piece of shit. She's all proud.
As I mentioned, order. Order. This is precisely the reason why we should be very mindful of our language, because the things will be said on all sides which is going to be disturbing to the order of the House. I'm going to come back to this matter, and I'm going to ask the Deputy Prime Minister to start her question again without using those words. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can handle it. But what makes me really mad, what I can't handle, is seeing crocodile tears from these Conservatives. The only time they care, notice vulnerable Canadians, is for a partisan photo op. And we know they don't care because they are opposed to a national school food program that is feeding 400,000 Canadian kids. They're opposed to dental care that is helping 1 million. We care about Canadians, they just care about themselves.
The Honourable Member from Battleford, Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs up, crime's up, and you know what? Time is up. This costly NDP Liberal coalition has doubled the cost of housing, and the majority of Canadians are unable to keep up with their grocery needs. Canadians have had enough. But the NDP Liberal coalition only wants to drive up costs by quadrupling their carbon tax. Will the Prime Minister finally call a carbon tax election so Conservatives can offer Canadians some relief?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, under the Conservative leader, slogans are up, rhymes are up, and parroting talking points so you get a shiny gold star in caucus seems to be up. I cannot imagine diminishing myself when I have the opportunity to represent my community in the House to cheapen the arguments that we can put forward on the floor of the House of Commons. If they care about helping people, why don't they actually support the policies that help build homes for people who can't afford them? Why don't they actually help advance policies that let families put food on the table, whether that is childcare, a middle-class tax cut, or the Canada Child Benefit? Every time we put measures forward to help Canadians, they vote against it and stand up with this nonsense.
The Honourable Member from Battleford, Lloydminster.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you the Canadians that are lined up at food banks aren't buying their pathetic rhetoric. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has already confirmed once again that the carbon tax is costing Canadians more than they receive in rebates. And for families in Saskatchewan, the quadrupled carbon tax is $2,000. Will the Prime Minister finally give Canadians the carbon tax election that they so desperately need?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me provide a few facts to the honourable member. Fact, the PBO confirmed that the vast majority of Canadians get more money back than they pay. Fact, over 300 economists say carbon pricing is the best way to reduce emissions that is best for the economy. Fact, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith said her family gets more money back with the carbon rebate. Fact, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe said he looked at all alternatives to the carbon price and they were all too expensive. We are reducing emissions while we are addressing affordability. On that side of the House, they have no plan to address climate change. They are actively denying the reality of climate change. They have no plan for the economy. Shame on you.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Let's speak about facts. Mr. Speaker, young Quebecers listening to us are seeing a future dream of theirs disappear. That dream is of becoming a homeowner. In just 5 years, house prices in Quebec have increased by 74%. That's more than $1,000 more a month for a mortgage. The crisis was fueled, Mr. Speaker, by the Liberal government's compulsive deficits, with the enthusiastic support of the Bloc Québécois. Can the Prime Minister stand, look Canadians in the eye and say why he's made their life worse? The Honourable Minister for Tourism. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to remind my honourable colleague that it's this government that created the first national housing strategy that built thousands of housing units throughout the country. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, we've also created a tax-free savings account. Do you know how many young people have signed up? My brother, for example, who's 33, 700,000 young Canadians throughout the country who will see their dreams come true thanks to this government, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, it's not the Conservatives that are saying this. The Real Estate Brokers Association have noted this. $400,000 average price in Quebec City, $460,000 in Gatineau on average, $590,000 on average in Montreal. Mr. Speaker, beyond the numbers, we see broken dreams and ambitions for young Quebecers under the leadership of this government. I invite the member for Papineau, Prime Minister, to rise today and explain to young Canadians and Quebecers why he's made things worse for them and why they can't even buy a house because of his leadership. The Honourable Minister for Public Works and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague for Louis Saint Laurent, who I like very much, talks about ambitions and numbers. He should talk about the ambitions and the numbers of his Conservative leader. When he was Minister for Housing, during his entire mandate, throughout the country, built not one, not two, but hold on to your hats, 6 entire housing units, Mr. Speaker. He should talk about his Conservative leader when it comes to ambition, so that he could visit 160,000 units that we have built in his riding alone. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Yesterday, Quebec's new lieutenant told us that the secular nature of the Quebec state is a matter for Quebec, not Ottawa. Oh, he's absolutely right. Ottawa has absolutely no business meddling in secularism. It's none of Ottawa's business to meddle in Quebec's ability to live together. Thank you to the Minister for this reminder. So we understand that Ottawa has absolutely no intention of going to court to challenge a Quebec law that does not fall under the jurisdiction of the federal government, right? That's what we should understand. Isn't that what the Minister said yesterday? The Honourable Minister for Public Works and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my colleague is right. It's provincial. It's education. If my colleague wants to inform and consult with the Quebec government, he shouldn't do so here. He should do that at the National Assembly of Quebec. That's the recommendation that I made to him yesterday. The Honourable Member for Drummond. The Prime Minister took advantage of his appearance on the Stephen Colbert show to declare, and I quote, "We are trying to ensure that people keep their culture, keep their language." Mr. Speaker, come on, that's not how integration works in Quebec. In Quebec, we agree on a common core: equality, religious neutrality, and French as the common language. Learning French and adhering to common values are part of integrating into Quebec. Does the federal government realise that its multiculturalism is simply incompatible with Quebec's model of integration? The Honourable Minister for Public Works and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, my colleague's right. Learning French, integrating into Quebec is being a Quebecer, growing and living in Quebec. That is the privilege of millions of Quebecers, including new immigrants. That's how things work in Quebec. He's right, and we're proud of it. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Ottawa wants to challenge Bill 21 in the courts and weaken secularism in Quebec. Ottawa maintains the religious exception in the Criminal Code. Ottawa refuses to allow the Multiculturalism Act to apply to Quebec. And the Prime Minister is telling Americans that everyone who comes to Canada can keep their language and that there is no common language, etc. There's no problem. In short, the federal government is undermining integration, harming secularism, and is hurting the French language. Does this government understand that what it should do is try not to hurt Quebec's ability to live together? The Honourable Minister for Public Works and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What's up with this pervert? What a weirdo Jean-Yves Duclos is. They put this shit in front of our faces as Canadians, and we think we should just swallow it because we came up believing we had our government is corrupt. Look at this pedophile, Jean-Yves Duclos.
A colleague who I like very much is just looking to squabble.
Pedophile.
Countless Quebecers, new Quebecers, arrive in Quebec because Quebec is part of Canada. When we're Quebecer, we are a Canadian.
Who votes for these people?
New arrivals in my riding say that they're proud to be Quebecers and proud to be Canadians.
They're getting to me, guys. These liberals.
The Honourable Member from.
These liberals are getting to me. Like, they think they can just do this stuff and that it won't lead to an assassination. It will.
Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs up, crimes up, and time is up. The Prime Minister's own parliamentary budget officer confirmed yet again that the carbon tax costs more to Canadians than they get back in rebates. When the NDP Liberals quadruple the carbon tax, families in Alberta will pay nearly $2,000 more in carbon taxes. Will the NDP Liberals finally admit their tax is simply a scheme and call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, at the risk of correcting my honourable colleague from the other side, let me state very clearly, the PBO has indicated that 8 out of 10 Albertans get more money back from the Canada Carbon Rebate than they pay in carbon tax. And Mr. Speaker, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can take the word of Premier Danielle Smith, who said that not only did she get more money back because she lives in rural Alberta, she even got the 20% top-up. Sorry, my colleague, that's the fact.
I ask the Honourable Member for Miramichi Grand Lake not to take the floor unless he's recognised. The Honourable Member from Battleford's Lloydminster. Excuse me, from Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians lined up at food banks really aren't buying that rhetoric. I'm sorry. Food bank usage is also up. Cold Lake Food Bank is the busiest it's ever been, with a 28% increase in usage over 2023, which itself saw an increase of 16% over 2022. The carbon tax is driving up the cost of groceries, gas, and heating, making things more difficult for families and food banks that are pushed to their limit. So the question's simple. Will the Prime Minister admit his carbon tax isn't working and call a carbon tax election?
I wonder what the other Randy thinks.
The Honourable Minister from Parliament Workforce Development.
Speaker, the numbers are in and the checks have already arrived. And in Alberta, a family of 4 gets $2,500 per year, which is more than they spend on the price on pollution, which is something the other side doesn't understand because, Mr. Speaker, they don't care if the planet burns. And, Mr. Speaker, let's go one step further. Why did that side vote against the Canada Child Benefit that gives $7,800 per kid in Alberta? Why did they vote against childcare? Why did they vote against support for workers? They care about themselves, not about Canadians. We're on the side of Canadians each and every day.
The Honourable Member from Regina Leuven.
that much hot air could run a couple windmills, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of these NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs up, crime is up, and time is up. The Parliamentary Budget Officer once again confirmed that Canadians pay much more and cost more than they get back in rebates. In Saskatchewan, after these guys quadruple the carbon tax, it's going to cost a family $2,000. That's $2,000 a year, Mr. Speaker. My question is, when will these Liberals call carbon tax elections so Canadians can have their say at the ballot box?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, it's really difficult to take any of this rhetoric seriously. When I was first elected 9 years ago, that party used to send checks to millionaires.
Every single Liberal that they send out, like this Arif Irani's a asshole. He's just a piece of shit lying straight to your face and my mom's face. She believes it. Watch this goofus. Oh my God. It's so frustrating to watch these assholes, like, because they are just assholes. This Virani here, he's a piece of shit.
To help them with the cost of raising their families. That presented two questions. Millionaires would ask me in my riding, why am I getting this money? And people of lower income would ask me in my riding, why is it getting taxed back? What we did is we created a Canada Child Benefit that is tax-free and means tested. What we've also done is establish a national school food program. If you're really serious about addressing child poverty and family poverty, why don't you get on board?
Screw you. Liar.
The Honourable Member from Chicoutimi-Lefia.
Mr. Speaker, the demand at our local food bank is skyrocketing, but the Bloc Québécois keeps supporting this incompetent government. It's ignoring Quebecers' real problems. The Bloc Québécois is not helping the regions. Saguenay families are desperate with rising grocery and housing prices. When will this Prime Minister trigger an election so that the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean can be represented by the only party that cares about regions, the Conservative Party, the Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors? I'd like to thank my colleague from the Saguenay region. But after voting against lowering the retirement age, after voting against dental care, after voting against increasing the guaranteed income supplement for vulnerable seniors, now our colleague is getting up and asking why the cost of living is going up. Well, that's because your party will bring in cuts, and it's going to affect your constituents. Yes, I'd just like to remind us all that some of the questions today directed questions directly to members, and that's not how it should be. It should go through the Speaker.
From Edmonton, Griesbach.
The numbers are out, and last winter was the worst on record for Edmonton's unhoused population. It was so bad that over 100 people living on the street lost a limb due to frostbite. Indigenous people make up over 2/3 of Edmonton's houseless population. Indigenous people will lose their limbs and their lives this winter because this government failed to build affordable homes. How many Indigenous people need to freeze before this Prime Minister takes action?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for his advocacy on the issue of supporting those who have the most acute housing need, which disproportionately impacts Indigenous peoples across this country. As my colleague very well knows, we have advanced billions of dollars specifically to help address some of these concerns, including support directly through the City of Edmonton, working with a partner, Homeward Trust, to make the situation better to the extent money can help. In addition, we have put hundreds of millions of dollars on the table to work with provinces who cost match. More than a month ago in his province, I had sent a letter which is yet to be responded to. In the absence of that sort of cooperation with other levels of government, we will work directly with cities and with Indigenous governments to help address this very challenging situation.
The honourable member from Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, when I asked the minister about why he's doing nothing to stop Rogers from gouging Canadians on their cable bills, he refused to answer the question. He's not telling Canadians that his Liberal government is too weak to stand up to Rogers and big telcos ripping them off. It's under his government the Rogers-Shaw merger was even allowed to happen, leading to higher bills for Canadians. People feel defeated, and the Liberals are doing nothing to help. In fact, they're piling on. Why are the Liberals caving to big telcos while Canadians are getting gouged? Just because he's a Rogers rollover doesn't mean the rest of us have to accept that.
Again, I'm going to encourage members to be very judicious in their words when speaking to other honourable members. The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, it's
Look
quite
at this
ironic
cocky
to hear
little
from the
piece
NDP
of
about
shit.
standing up, Mr. Speaker. When they had the opportunity, I think they folded, Mr. Speaker. I think everyone in this House would understand that. Mr. Speaker, the member knows well, and everyone in this House, we stood up to the big telco in this country, and we will always stand up for Canadian and consumer. Mr. Speaker, we fought for more competition, lower prices for Canadian, and better choice. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, Canadian knows at home we're going to always stand for them, stand for consumers, stand for Canadians, stand for competition.
Yeah, very good.
The honourable member for Vancouver Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Pharmacare Act received royal assent on October the 10th.
She's 300 years old. Like, I looked it up. It's on Wikipedia. She was born in the 1700s. Like, come on, Edie Fry. Have you ever seen one of my videos with her in committee? She is obnoxious. She's so old. Older than dirt.
British Columbia has been benefiting from that act, saving the province $28 million because of free contraceptives. Now, with the passage of this bill, women and transgender diverse Canadians can have access to contraceptives across Canada. The Pharmacare Act also includes access to expensive diabetes medications and tools, and these life-saving drugs are too often unaffordable to patients. Can the Minister of Health tell this House how the Pharmacare Act will positively impact the health outcomes of Canadians and savings?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by thanking the member for Vancouver Centre, who's one of the longest-serving members of this House, whose tireless advocacy for health care in this country and for pharmacare are a huge reason why we have pharmacare. It was just passed, Mr. Speaker. We're ready to sign deals. And what is that going to mean? It's going to mean for people who can't afford medication, they're going to get it. That's not just an issue of fundamental justice. It's going to be about cost avoidance, about creating a system that avoids bad outcomes. Not only are the Conservatives against it, most disappointingly, they have no plan for people who don't have access to the medication they need. They want to cut dental care and other essential services. We're not going to allow it.
The honourable member from South Shore, St. Margaret's.
After 9 years, NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. And you know what else is up?
I worked with Rick Perkins at the same company for 12 years. Different departments. He was VP of a different area. He was communications. I was in finance and supply chain. Anyway, I know Rick Perkins. I like him a lot more as an MP.
Liberal cover-ups. The Speaker ruled the NDP Liberals violated the order to turn Green Slush Fund $400 million scandal documents over for criminal investigation. The Liberal obstruction of justice continues, with 19 government departments censoring departments and 2 agencies refusing to turn the documents over. So will the Prime Minister just end the Liberal corruption cover-up and turn the uncensored documents over now?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Speaker, that member gets up every day and says things that are simply not true. But what he won't answer, Mr. Speaker, is why his leader is refusing to get a security clearance. Mr. Speaker, that's the real question on every Canadian's mind right now. When we are facing a time when we have to put country first, stand up for Canadians, the leader of the opposition is hiding something from Canadians. The question is, what is it, and why is it stopping him from getting his security clearance?
The The honourable member from South Shore St. Margaret's.
Well, the Prime Minister could release the 11 names, but he can also release the documents uncensored so Canadians can learn the truth about the $400 million Liberal Green slush fund cover-up. Canadians, I'm sure, will also be shocked to learn that on the Prime Minister's order, the more than 10,000 censored pages cover up the most important information about the Prime Minister's hand-picked Liberal appointees to the Green Slush Fund. The government does not exist to protect corrupt Liberals from criminal investigation. So will the Prime Minister just stop his cover-up of Liberal corruption and hand the uncensored documents over now?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Canadians expect police to follow due process, and let me be perfectly clear that the government obviously complies with anything that follows due process. But what Canadians also expect is that their leaders are going to act in the best interest of Canadians. That's right. Not to protect their partisan interests, Mr. Speaker. Why is that member and all members of the Conservative Party covering up for the leader of the opposition who's refusing to get his security clearance, Mr. Speaker? It's easy. All the other members have done it. When will the leader of the opposition?
For the second time, I'm going to ask the honourable member from Battle River Crowfoot today to please not take the floor when he is not recognized. I will not like.
So right there, what's going on is he's telling John Barlow, an MP from Alberta, to shut up. How about Canadians let Greg Fergus that we think he should shut up and sit down? Oh, our system is so broken, guys. Like, how do you fight back against this?
To do this a third time. The honourable member from Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up. Mr. Speaker, you ruled that the NDP Liberals have violated a House order regarding the criminal investigation into the latest $400 million scandal. The government's refusal to respect your ruling has paralysed Parliament. The Auditor General found that Liberal appointees at SDTC gave millions to Liberal insiders with over 186 conflicts of interest. Mr. Speaker, will the NDP Liberals end the cover-up and comply with your lawful order so we can get accountability for corruption and Parliament can get back to work?
The Honourable Leader of the House of Government in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, I expect my honourable colleagues on the other side to at least be honest with the facts. What you said was that this was highly unusual, this motion, and it should be referred to committee for study. We support that. It's only the Conservatives that are obstructing their own obstruction. But, Mr. Speaker, this is unsurprising because they're also trying to cover up their own leader's refusal to get his security clearance. Mr. Speaker, all of the other leaders of the political parties in this House have done that. Canadians want to know why. What is he hiding and what is he trying to protect? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Then I have Deputy de Montmagny.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny, Lise, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of these Liberal scandals, once again our work has been paralysed by Liberal corruption. Canadians need to know where their money is going and why $390 million taxpayer dollars ended up in the pockets of Liberal buddies. Meanwhile, Canadians are struggling to house and feed themselves. Are the Liberals finally going to step up and give the evidence to police so that Parliament can finally start working for Canadians? The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, it's very disappointing that Conservatives will not tell the truth about this matter. And what is even more concerning, and what Canadians are wondering, is why the leader of the opposition does not get his security clearance. Is he hiding something? We are all wondering why he refuses to get his security clearance. He's clearly hiding something because it would be very simple to get his clearance. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, Once again, Quebec is dealing with gang warfare. Warfare between organized crime, which has been a scourge for too long, and new, less organized groups that recruit teens to commit serious crimes. They are pushing children into a life of crime. They dangle a fistful of dollars in front of them, telling them that they will be able to have a better life. And then these young people can't leave the gang life behind. What will the government do to protect our kids from organized crime? The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. Mr. Speaker, the fight against organized crime and to protect our youth is extremely important. On this side of the House, we have invested $390 million to support children in this area. We are also doing more to support the CPSA, and we've also invested $3.5 million over 3 years to help Interpol. The Honourable Member for Avignon, Amitis-Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, we need to carry out prevention work to prevent kids from joining gangs, and I'd like to congratulate everyone who does that work on a daily basis. But we also need to crack down against criminals who purposefully recruit kids because they know they won't get as serious sentences as adults. We need to stop them from targeting kids. That's our role. Will the government work with us on this? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
And I support this initiative that the member opposite has raised and thank her for her work on our Public Safety Committee where we've discussed this. We agree that it's crucially important to crack down on criminal organizations, particularly those who recruit young people to subvert the justice system. Mr. Speaker, this is precisely why we restored the cuts made by the Conservatives to invest against gun and gang violence in this country, and I hope that we can work across party lines to continue with this investment.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member from Kildonan, St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime's up, and time's up. The Toronto Police are on the front lines of gun violence in Canada. One of their officers was recently shot by a repeat violent offender. And yet, shockingly, yesterday, the Liberal Prime Minister took some deranged victory lap on social media for his attack on licensed, trained, and police-vetted sports shooters. And let's remember that after 9 years of Liberals, gun violence in Canada is up 116%. Their approach has categorically failed, Mr. Speaker. When will they finally get tough on the criminals responsible for gun violence?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, it's a shame to see once again Conservatives using the talking points of the gun lobby instead of standing up for victims of crime and standing up to get guns off our streets. Mr. Speaker, we also know that women are disproportionately affected by gun violence, and what do Conservatives do? They want more guns on our streets. They cut funds from CBSA to stop the import of illegal guns and then stand in this place acting as if they support victims of crime. Mr. Speaker, it's a shame we have committed to get guns off our street while Conservatives work for the gun lobby.
The Honourable Member from Kildonan, St. Paul.
In the words of the Toronto Police Association to this Liberal Prime Minister, quote, criminals did not get your message. Our communities are experiencing a 45% increase in shootings, a 62% increase in gun-related homicides compared to the last year. What difference does your handgun ban make when 85% of guns seized by our members can be sourced to the United States? Your statement is out of touch and offensive to victims of crime and police officers everywhere. Whatever you think you've done to improve community safety has not worked. When will the Liberals call an election so we can finally bring an end to the crime and chaos they created in our streets?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Security.
Mr. Speaker, once again, let's talk about Conservative logic. They think putting more guns on our street is going to somehow keep our communities safer. We know that that doesn't work. Their cuts to CBSA to allow the import of illegal guns is something that we have had
don't worry, guys. We've got Jennifer O'Connell, who is cleaning up a gun control issue in Canada. Jennifer O'Connell, right there, that stupid blonde twit that's barking at you right now. These liberals are so unlikable. Like, what a twit.
Mr. Speaker, we have put in place sorry,
I'm actually going to.
Come on.
I've been having difficulty hearing the answer to this question, and I'm gonna because it.
What?
Oh, please, doesn't work that way.
So I'm going to ask honourable members, please, to allow us to hear the answer to this question. It was a lot, from the moment that this member stood up, a lot of heckling. I'm going to ask the honourable member to start a...
Come on, Greg Fergus. Canada is watching you loser. Look at him just standing, doing nothing.
The honourable member, honourable parliamentary secretary, can please
start. There's no noise.
Top.
We have microphones. We can hear.
Mr. Speaker, it's interesting that every time I stand in this place and call out conservative hypocrisy around violence in our communities, they can't stand it. This is why they try to silence voices like mine who stand up for women in particular who are disproportionately affected by gun violence. Right. Mr. Speaker, what conservatives believe is more guns on our street will somehow help keep our communities safe. But we know what keeps communities safe is getting these guns off our streets, investing in CBSA to protect our borders, while conservatives take their talking points from the gun lobby.
And they're all applauding, standing up. Mark Holland stood up, applauded.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, for 9 years, this Liberal government has brought in policies that have caused a dramatic increase in crime, drug trafficking, arson, street gangs recruiting kids. Canadians and Quebecers are living in fear. But instead of helping Quebecers and doing something about this incompetence, the Bloc Québécois is continuing to support this bungling government. The government's inaction will definitely cause numbers of victims to surge over the next year. We need to bring back common sense and trigger an election. Do they have the courage to do that? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I can barely believe this conservative hypocrisy. They voted against all of our measures to do something to freeze the handgun market throughout the country. They stand up in this House and they ask about gun violence. It makes no sense. We know that we need to take action, and we have taken concrete action. 1 year ago, we did something about the handgun market, and it's starting to bear fruit. We want all parties in this House to help ensure that our communities remain safe. The Honourable Member for Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, this month, Medicare legislation came into force in Canada. 9 million women will be able to take informed decisions about contraceptives without having to worry about paying. Can the Minister of Tourism tell the House about how the Medicare program will guarantee that women have the reproductive autonomy that they deserve? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for her activism in the area of women's rights. This Medicare legislation is historic. This pharmacare legislation, rather, is historic and will allow people like my own daughter to be able to access contraceptive choices without having to worry about how to pay for it. Unlike the Conservatives, who want to take that choice away from women, we will always support women's autonomy when it comes to making choices about their bodies and their future.
The Honourable Member from Calgary Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Liberal NDP government, taxes are up, costs are up, corruption is up, and time is up. The Auditor General is finally investigating GC Strategies, who received $100 million from this government and $20 million for the Arrive scam scandal. But this is only one incident of Liberal insider corruption. The Green Slush Fund, McKinsey, Global Affairs Canada, Environment Canada. So just how much taxpayer money did the Prime Minister give fraudsters and scamsters?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, while Conservatives play with theatrics, we're actually committed to ensuring that our procurement system is something that Canadians have trust in. This is anybody who has operated without following the rules and the laws should be held accountable. We've said that from the beginning. This is precisely why CBSA has already initiated a number of measures and recommendations and are working with the Auditor General to ensure that there is trust in our procurement system, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
After 9 years of NTB Liberals, taxes are up, corruption is up, crime is up, time is up. Yesterday, the Auditor General announced that she will be investigating the $100 million in contracts awarded to GC Strategies by this Liberal government, a two-person IT company that did no IT work, but was paid $20 million for the Arrive scam app. It's been months since the Liberal minister promised to recover the money paid to GC Strategies. When will the Prime Minister get taxpayers their money back?
Great question. Here. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Security.
Mr. Speaker, as I said before, we welcome the opportunity to get to the bottom of the situation to ensure that our procurement system has trust in it. But let's also be clear with Canadians in the fact that it was the Conservative Party who first initiated contracts with this company. And so I really hope the Auditor General looks back and ensures that any wrongdoing is also looked at the beginning of contracts with this company, Mr. Speaker, because all Canadians deserve to know that there is trust in our procurement system. Oh, they got quiet all of a sudden.
It's not true.
L'honorable député de Mégantic-l'Érable.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, 2 million Canadians are lining up at food banks every month, but meanwhile, Liberal buddies are lining up to fill their own pockets. Do you remember GC Strategies? 2 guys in a basement who received a $20 million contract to develop ArriveCan, even though they had no IT expertise. And we've just heard that the AG has announced that she will be investigating the $100 million in contracts that GC Strategies got. GC Strategies took advantage of this Liberal largesse. Meanwhile, who paid the bill? Taxpayers. How many Liberal buddies have raked in the profits while emptying the pockets of Canadian families? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As my colleague already very clearly stated, there is a question that we've never gotten the answer to. My colleague just talked about the fact that some children don't have enough to eat and that kids need to be able to have eaten a good breakfast before they go to school. So how is it that the Conservative Party doesn't want to help children have enough to eat when they go to school? After all, how can the Conservatives justify this attitude with their own constituents?
Le député de Mégantic-l'Érable a eu sa chance à poser.
The member has already had a chance to ask a question, so I would encourage him to continue this discussion outside the House.
Député de Châteauguay-Lacolle.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Access to contraceptives like the birth control pill improves equality and provides women with the ability to decide if or when they will start a family. We know that cost is the single most significant barrier for women and gender-diverse Canadians in accessing these medicines. Can the Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Youth please share with this House how the Pharmacare Act will impact Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Women, Gender Equality and Youth.
Mr. Speaker, access to contraception shouldn't be a luxury, but a fundamental right. And the Pharmacare Act provides women and gender-diverse people with the freedom to make their own choices about their bodies and not worry about the cost, Mr. Speaker. But Conservatives don't want Canadians to have free access to contraceptives or reproductive freedom. How do we know this? Because members opposite continue to introduce anti-choice petitions and bills. Make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, Conservatives will cut free contraceptives. On this side of the House, we will always stand for choice.
The honourable member from Vancouver East.
The Conservatives created the low-wage temporary foreign worker stream, and the Liberals feel it to help rich CEOs. They restricted workers to one employer with closed work permits, subjected migrant workers to abuse, wage theft, and exploitation, and suppressed wages for Canadians. Chain CEOs are ramping up exploitation and abuse. Workers like Rowell Palin said their boss, Canadian Tire, paid them less wages and threatened them if they told anyone. Will the Liberals stop caving to CEOs and end the abuse with open work permits?
The Honourable Minister for Workforce Development.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question, and as I've been very clear in this chamber and at committee, there's a new sheriff in town, and businesses need to be very careful and need to make sure that they are respecting workers from coast to coast to coast. Stay tuned later today, Mr. Speaker, for more changes to the temporary foreign worker program. We are serious about making sure that that program is a program of last resort. Jobs belong in the hands of Canadians, of youth, of newcomers, and of people who already live here. Mr. Speaker, we're going to make sure the temporary foreign program is cleaned up. That's what we promise the Canadians. It's exactly what we're going to do.
The honourable member from Churchill-Kiwatinuk-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Bloc and Liberals joined together in committee to cover up the soccer drone scandal that took place during the Olympics. The Liberals refused to investigate how this happened and are happy to ignore the problem, which is apparently good enough for the Bloc, who shamefully joined them. Canadians deserve better. They deserve to know that this won't happen again. Why won't the government support accountability? Why won't they listen to the players, the soccer community, and fans who want to ensure that the focus is on the tremendous effort on the pitch and not on the actions of a few people and institutions that don't get it, that soccer, like any sport, should be about fair play and integrity?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the committee, of course, is free to determine its own business, but I can assure this House that upon learning of this scandal, this government took immediate action and suspended the funding to Soccer Canada for the...
So Bubbles' adopted sister here, Carla Qualtrough, I think is her name, she's quitting politics. She's giving up. She's got her pension. She's out. She says the harassment is too much. Do you think if she wasn't a lying, thieving MP minister, she's Minister of Sports. Can't see her nose, but like in front of her face, but she's Minister of Sports. That's how the Liberals do. And she's quitting because it's too much.
Coaches that were implicated. There's also been direct action taken by FIFA, by the Canadian Olympic Committee, by Soccer Canada itself, and I can assure you we're watching the situation closely.
Comme il est 15h20, conformément...
It being 3:20 p.m., pursuant to order adopted on October 21st, 2024, I invite all honourable members to stand to observe a moment of silence to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the attack on...
All right, gang, we're going to wrap it up. It's been a frustrating show. These Liberals are getting to me a bit because they're lying to us right to your face. And they know that we know that they're lying, but they still continue to do it. They fooled my mom. They fool a bunch of her friends that watch like CBC. They watch The National or something and think they're informed. Watching this politics in context, then you see what is really going on. Thank you to all the new viewers that tuned in today. welcome back, everybody else. What an incredible gang. I do love this chat room. It's a good place to come and vent this shit, because it has been frustrating. Anyhow, Darren, Dime Bag Coins, I'm going to push your channel again. I love this song. I like your version of it. I'm hoping that YT doesn't come down too hard on us using this. I hope you don't either. Guys, check out Darren's channel. I think we've got it right here. Yeah, we do. Go and check out Darren's channel. This is Dime Bag Coins. He's one of our moderators here. He's fantastic. Fun guy, good spirit. Check him out. Anyways, we're going out on this because I find it fun. And we need to lighten the mood after watching those guys lie to our faces when we know they're lying. It's obvious. Like, so gross. Tell you what, though. This will lighten us up. It'll lighten me up. Oh, where's the audio?
Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. Sometimes I feel like my only friend is the city I live in, city of angels. Lonely as I am, together we cry. I drive on the streets 'cause she's my companion. I walk through her hills 'cause she knows who I am. She sees my good deeds and she kisses me windy. But I never worry, now that is a lie. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. Hey, hey, yeah. It's hard to believe that there's nobody out there. It's hard to believe that I'm all alone. At least I have her love, the city she loves me. Lonely as I am, together we cry. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. Is where I drew some blood. Under the bridge, stay.
How about that, guys? Check out Darren's channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share, get notified for my live shows. We have a blast here watching these guys lie to our faces. We're onto them. We're onto them, guys. That's it. All we need to do is expose it. Show other Canadians. Invite somebody to watch one of these shows. We need change in this country. We need an election desperately. They're just going to keep lying. The lies are going to get bigger. The scandals are going to get bigger. They're going to spend more money saying, like, why, you don't want to feed the kids? You don't want to take care of the homeless? Man, our job is to get an election. Whatever their job is, they've manipulated into something different. We're out, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. We're back tomorrow. Check out... I've got this new video out. Check it. Michael Cooper goes hard in the paint. Till tomorrow, have a good night. Thank you for watching. You guys are the best chat room on here. For sure.